I just did some really, really important inner child work. It works at a whole other level when I'm guided through it by my therapist. But the work that I just now did was just in a personal meditation. I didn't even see it taking that route. But it was quite a release. It kind of came out of nowhere, and basically, so I realized how much it breaks my heart that we have this tendency to kick ourselves while we're down, when we're at our lowest, when specifically this is the worst, is when no one else is there for us and we feel so alone. And if you're like me, you are ashamed of that. When you feel that way, you feel like no one loves you, no one's there for you, no one wants to be with you. And then as if that's not enough, you start beating yourself up. You say, I'm a loser. It may not be conscious, but that's ultimately what you're saying to yourself. These judgmental, self-hating feelings that start coming up. It's like, wow, I'm worthless. Like, those are the words behind the feelings. When self-doubt comes up and fear that you're a failure, it's like, I'm a loser. I'm alone. I'm doomed. I'm a failure. Like, all of these horrible, just defeating words and feelings. And it absolutely breaks my heart that when we're already down, we just go ahead and finish ourselves off by turning against ourselves too. And so some of the work that I just did was, it was from a time that I always kind of omit in my life somehow. I mean, it was most of my life I've lived in pretty much one place, and for a year I lived in Utah, just a super random year of my life, in like 3rd grade. And so I lived in Utah, didn't really fit in well with the other kids, and I had already gone through a really publicly shaming, traumatizing incident the year before. And so I had kind of learned to be ashamed and on guard. And so anyways, when I get to Utah and things aren't going awesome socially, I just I had a lot of subconscious self-judgment, and I would never admit it to myself because I was so humiliated that I wasn't the most popular kid and that I wasn't liked by everyone. And I was so humiliated and so hateful towards myself for that, which is, it just sounds ridiculous. But I really had so much inner turmoil thinking that I was flawed, thinking that I was wrong, that I was bad, that I was a failure, that I was less than. I blamed myself as being inherently less than and unlovable. And it was just an external situation. And I was a perfect, innocent, sweet, incredible little being. And an external situation that was sad. It's really sad when a kid feels alone, feels like, they don't have anybody to play with, and that's really sad. And instead of meeting myself with love and understanding and sympathy and, hope and these, these things that could have really been positive in that situation, I just kicked myself down further. And so anyways, my point is that in my meditation, it's amazing how long those types of things can stick with you and can actually set the stage for your adult life and your self-defense mechanisms. I'm a lot more confident and aware of myself as an adult, and socially aware and all of that. And yet that stage was set, and I can see where it has affected me in, blaming myself for when things do go wrong with a relationship or a friendship, and where I, instead of having positive self-criticism or whatever, constructive criticism, I automatically think, okay, there's either something inherently wrong with that person or there's something inherently wrong with me, and it's just a character flaw. And I judge and I'm harsh. And so I apologized to that little girl, which is incredibly powerful. It may sound silly, but I was taught by an incredible therapist to stop and picture that little girl and say, you're beautiful, you're whole, you're wonderful. I never should have treated you that way. I never wanted to treat you that way. I did the best that I could, and I'm so sorry that I wasn't there for you. I'm so sorry that I wasn't there for you. This song is too sad. I'm really sorry. And you gotta get real with yourself. First, you have to accept that it still hurts. And it's hard to put down your pride and recognize that your childhood has affected your entire being and will continue to until the end of your life if you do not stop and address this stuff. It's so hard to admit that because we all want to act like, oh, I'm grown, I've let all that shit go, I'm so mature and I'm so past all that. The past is the past. But listen, that is the stage. Back when we didn't know how to process anything. Back when we were still just trying to grasp reality, and nothing made sense, and we were just taking in everything. We were hit with all of these challenges and trials, and we internalized it. And we need to stop and take the time to revisit that. Apologize to that poor little child that we beat up. Let her know that she's perfect, or him, and that they were innocent and that they did the best that they could. Thank them for fighting and for getting you to where you are now, for surviving. And let them know that they're loved, that you're not going to forget them and leave them behind, that you're with them, that you will never turn against them again, and that the partnership of your childhood and your adulthood together are going to be stronger than ever within this full acceptance of the beginning and the present, the whole journey in between. That acceptance, that forgiveness, and that love, and that hope can all come together and create a more stable, more resounding energy of love and confidence and push through than you ever knew was possible. It's just letting go, releasing that sadness that you internalized so long ago. And believe me, I did not want to look. I still don't want to look at my childhood and that little girl who was so sensitive and easily hurt. It's humiliating to admit to myself that I still hang on to so much from back then. I don't want to look at it. It is hard. But it is the most transformative thing that you can do. Suddenly things in the present will click. Things that you have feared, things that you have been anxious about, things that you just had no idea where these negative feelings and self-doubts were coming from in your current life. Suddenly, those fears and anxieties will just melt away and something will click. And I don't know how better to describe it than that, but suddenly things will just start to make sense. And you'll start to realize that life isn't so hard when you let go of the past, when you truly face it off and let it go and come to terms with what has happened, what was and what is, and find peace and acceptance and love. And it's a process. There's so much to look at and so much to address. But start in, just dig a little deeper each time, and it will all be everything you've ever needed. And so worth it.